So let's take our Bibles to Matthew chapter number 7. And really, this is the last of the Sermon on the Mount series that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And Jesus rounds out all that he taught with a really interesting and important parable or comparative story, starting with verse number 24. And let me just kind of read it to you. We're familiar with it here in the United States. It's something that's kind of become almost a worldly statement, even though it has only really one intended meaning. And so here's verse number 24. It says, "Therefore whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I'll liken him to a wise man who built his house upon a rock." And so we're talking about a sure foundation. Jesus is saying, doing what I say is the way to live, is the only way to build a solid foundation. So he goes on, he says, "And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock." He says, the way that I say life is, the way that I prescribe life, family issues, sin, righteousness, whatever I say is the right way to live, is the only true and firm foundation that can handle the storms that come in this life. Verse number 26 says, "And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand." Now, did you notice that it's not about the people that haven't heard? These things are about the people who have heard. If you haven't heard Jesus' sayings, there's no foundation out there that's any different from another. Until you do what God says to do, till you've heard it and make a choice about it, you are building your house in a way that seems best to you. When Jesus reveals himself to you, you now have an opportunity to change the way you're building the house. And so he goes on, he says in verse number 27, he says, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass when Jesus had finished these sayings, that people were astonished at his doctrine. He had given good, solid teachings as one that has authority, not like the ones that just seemed like they were just repeating words. He spoke with passion. He spoke with compassion. He spoke with authority. He spoke as one that truly understands. And so when we look into God's word, he's saying, I really know how I designed you and what works best. And so found your life on rock, my principles, my sayings, my ways of living. And this is very difficult for us because without saying it out loud, we live as if we know better, or God understands why we're doing it this way, and then it'll all work out the same. God says, if you hear his sayings and you do them, you're like a wise man who builds his house upon a rock. If you hear the sayings and you don't do them, you're like a foolish man who builds his house upon sand. And we here in the desert know the difference between rock and sand really well. I hope this helps. Have yourselves a great day.